Good morning. This morning's presentation is from Doug Ibarguen. We'll talk about our annual Vidalia onion sale, which is a fundraiser for Farmington Rotary. And this year, the connection of the Vidalia fundraiser to the global grant for the helping folks in the country of Guatemala. And with that, I'll ask Doug to begin.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. I thought what I would do, as I imagine a great number of you are familiar with what global grant even is, but you are familiar, I'm sure, with the district grant because our club has been so involved with them ever since they became a possibility for us to do. But a global grant is a different animal. I wonder, I'm used to being in a position where I can ask questions of people, but I'd like people to volunteer if they can tell me what the difference is, the major differences between a global grant and a district grant. Anyone? Money, that certainly is one. Yeah, and so what's the minimum budget of a global grant? Anyone care to venture a guess?
$50,000.
How many?
50.
No, that's a little high.
100.
No.
Oh.
Where's your math?
I got my shoes on. I can't count that fast.
I thought it was 20.
No, it's in between there. It's 30,000 is
Okay.
the minimum budget of a global grant. What are some other factors about a global grant that are distinct from a district grant? What are some things you have to have?
Focus area.
An area of focus, absolutely. And in this particular global grant, we are going to be focusing on improvement of economic development of an area. What else has to be involved? Let's think people, or what
Partners.
partners, right? So that you have to have an international host or an international contact, and you have to have a host contact. So you're dealing with two different countries, your own country and another country. So, in this case, we are the international contact, and I'll get into who the folks in Guatemala are who are the host contact. So those are the big differences between a global grant and a district grant. So you can obviously see that being that much more money involved, that a club that's involved with a global grant is looking at more money coming from them in order to get it initiated. But of course, the way it works with the funding of a global grant, you can have multiple clubs, multiple Rotary clubs getting together, or just people who decide they want to contribute to it in order to come up with the funding to meet the formula. Now, as far as speaking specifically about the grant itself, the project, what I want to do is to actually show you a very brief film, and I won't be able to see or hear you during the film, but because I'm going to be putting it up as a full-blown to cover the whole screen. And whenever anyone is speaking in English, there are Spanish subtitles and vice versa. So you do have to pay close attention to it, because sometimes you may have to be reading and sometimes you may not. So let's get on with the film, and I'll let them explain what this project is about.
sharing your screen. I don't see anything.
Is everyone getting that?
Now, yeah.
You are all looking at the future community center right here, right next to the municipal park that we're going to be working with as well. Planting Seeds has 6 schools throughout Guatemala, 2 of those being in Zone 3 of Guatemala City, where Guatemala City's garbage dump is located. 1/3 of all Guatemala's garbage is dumped in this dump, and families enter the dump every single day to pick and sell recyclables to make a living for their family. And while we believe that early childhood education is the foundation that breaks the cycle of poverty, we know that we need a more comprehensive approach if we're going to be working with such a marginalized community like the families of Zone 3. And so when we started working with the families, we knew that the only way to make true sustainable change is for communities to be in charge of their own development. And that's why we started with multiple community meetings and multiple community interviews to ask families what they needed in their community and what the biggest problems were. The biggest problems that came back were violence and lack of opportunities. And so what we are presenting to you, we hope you can collaborate with, is a Planting Seeds Community Center, which will be right here. And the point of the Planting Seeds Community Center is an open community space that's open after 5 o'clock at night when most violence occurs, where community members can enter and leave at their choice.
Mi nombre es Esteban José Barrera de León. Tengo 10 años y este es mi dibujo. Aquí está la biblioteca, un material para bicicletas para que se diviertan. Y aquí un parque de juegos, aquí está la cancha, aquí está la biblioteca, aquí está el salón de inglés, el salón de baile.
Nosotros como arquitectos pues sabemos resolver espacios, sabemos resolver relaciones y construcción, pero sabemos que este proyecto es un proyecto especial, es un proyecto que no únicamente teníamos que enseñar los arquitectos, sino que es necesario el involucramiento comunitario. Así es que el proyecto fue diseñado de la mano con la comunidad, con un colaborativo que ya está establecido, trabajando ya desde varios años en el sector y pues con la organización Plantando Semillas.
One of Planting Seeds' core beliefs is that strengthened families will lead to stronger and more united communities. For this reason, Planting Seeds offers a variety of community programs, including Mothers and Fathers programs, English, breakdance, and after-school programming, leadership, and a Go Girls Empowerment program. The idea behind the community programming is to strengthen values and provide community members with a skill set that will enable them to create a change within their own home and in their community.
Yo creo que Plantando Semillas es diferente a muchos programas porque no solo uno participa del programa, sino uno también es parte del programa. No solo uno saca del programa, sino uno también puede aportar al programa.
Plantando Semillas es diferente a las demás organizaciones porque nos da la oportunidad de ser nosotros el cambio mismo en la comunidad, brindándonos las herramientas necesarias, siendo así la comunidad ayudando a la comunidad.
Es una oportunidad que se da a las chicas también para que puedan crecer, ya en más información como persona y también donde se puede compartir con ellas y también con la comunidad, también donde encontramos muchas veces el cariño que a veces buscamos.
Yo participo en Vamos Chicas y en Break Dance. He aprendido muchas cosas, pero lo que más importa es que Vamos Chicas me ayuda a tomar buenas decisiones y Break Dance a encontrar mi ritmo. Y me gusta porque al encontrar mi ritmo ya soy yo misma. El centro comunitario para mí significa más que todo la unión. porque es un lugar donde todos estamos juntos, todos disfrutamos, participamos y cada quien encuentra su ritmo, aprende cosas importantes.
Un centro comunitario aquí en mi comunidad significaría unir familias, primeramente, ya que hay espacios donde las familias puedan ir y reunirse. También significaría sacar jóvenes de las calles, ya que por la situación y el ambiente donde vivimos, que no hay un lugar donde poder ir a desarrollar habilidades como pintura, como clases de inglés, como baile. Los jóvenes están en las calles y aprendiendo nada bueno.
Para mí el centro comunitario es como un segundo hogar.
Para mí el centro comunitario significa felicidad.
Punto de reunión, expresión,
Amor.
Oportunidad. Un punto de motivación.
apoyo,
Aprendizaje. Este centro comunitario va a ayudar a nuestra comunidad y si trabajamos juntos podremos lograrlo. Esperamos contar con su colaboración. Muchas gracias.
Okay, there are several things in the film that I, was hoping people would take special note of. Some of the people themselves, Mac Phillips, the executive director, is a person have not met in person yet, only on Zoom several times. But you also may have noticed the co-executive director of Planting Seeds, a young lady by the name of Shannon Moyle. And we are fortunate enough to actually know her personally. We met her first in 2008 on our first trip to Safe Passage, because at that point in time, she worked for Safe Passage and was there for several years. But of course now she has joined the nonprofit organization of Planting Seeds International. So you can see from what you've just witnessed that we are not actually directly funding anything for Safe Passage through this 13th annual Vidalia onion sale. We are instead using the proceeds from that sale to help fund a global grant working with Planting Seeds. But in effect, we're still having a very positive effect on the children and families who live in the same garbage dump community. The whole idea of this project, as you can see from the film, is to give the families, people there, a safe place to go. Now, if you are familiar enough with global grants, you know that we cannot actually build a building with a global grant, but we can supply materials for the building, such as computers or mats for yoga or whatever, various things like that, all kinds of materials that would go in the building that would enhance the programs that they would offer. But one of the other things I was hoping people would recognize when seeing this film is one of the hallmarks of global grants within Rotary International is that we do not march in there and tell the people what they need. The people tell us what they need. And that's precisely the way this whole project came together. All of the community meetings that Planting Seeds held in the area, the actual people came up with what their needs are and what would be best to meet those needs, to keep them safe and to improve their economic situation. So that's, we have to be careful, so to speak, when we deal with Rotary International, with the foundation, to not say that we are building a community center, even though in effect that's what they're doing, but that is not the thrust of the project. The thrust of the project is to provide materials to enhance the programs that they offer. So that's the basic premise of it. Now, as far as the actual funding formula for this, this is something that has changed even since the last grant management seminar in the fall, because there have been changes that have been put forth by the trustees of the Rotary Foundation that have changed how the formula has to work. You may recall that it used to be that all the DDF, the district designated fund money that was used for a global grant. What's going on here? Hold on. There. It used to be that all of the money from DDF was matched 1-to-1 by the Rotary Foundation. That's no longer true. It's now matched at only 80% of the DDF. And for that reason, the district itself, which also used to match cash that clubs gave 1-to-1, they're now matching that at 1.15 in order to make up for the difference in what the Rotary Foundation is matching. Well, anyway, that being said, let me give you a very brief idea of what we're looking at here. We have not only DDF, district designated fund money coming from the district, we also have $5,000 coming from a fund out of Guatemala from a club there. The Waterville Rotary Club is going to be passing through $1,600 through us towards the grant. And our part, the Farmington Rotary Club's part, is essentially $6,100, although another individual that we're dealing with, a Lynn Kenny, who is out of Wisconsin, she's had a great deal of work, done a great deal of work with planting seeds over the years. And she and her sister are actually contributing $1,100 to this that, again, will pass through our club. So that means that we are at a position where we need to come up with $5,000. However, we've had an anonymous donor come forward who has dropped that figure down now to $3,000. So that, because that donor has decided they would give us $2,000. So it's $3,000 that we're looking to produce with the Vidalia onion sales. So that's how the formula is coming together. And it actually turns out, once you do all of the strange Rotary math with the matching and so forth, it comes out to $30,439, which is the actual total funding for this particular grant. And I can give you examples of some of the things that that we would be looking to provide for the facility. Let's see here. For example, English as second language, curriculum materials, measured MOMS tools for teaching. And of course, there will be train the trainers involved with this, because as you may know, one of the another hallmark of global grants with the foundation is sustainability. So if you have trainers that you have trained who are actually community members, that of course helps the program continue on. And I did mention yoga. That is another part of this for the health and physical recreation part of it. the dance troupe, in other words, the break dancing, which is a very popular thing down in that area of the country. Then, of course, as far as other equipment, you have audio equipment, computer equipment, projectors, laminators, things like that. So, you know, all kinds of materials that can be generated out of this that are not indicating that you're building a building. You are providing materials for the building to enhance their programs. So that's, you know, that some of the other people that we're dealing with, I mentioned this Lynn Kenny out of Wisconsin. There's also Sharon Workman, who's a Rotarian out of Michigan, who in the past has been the director, the president of the board of directors of Safe Passage. So I had met her before anyway, and she's involved with the planning for this. And of course, our own foundation committee chair, Deb Walters, is working very closely with us on this as well. But I also wanted to mention some of the things that the individuals thought was the most important part of it, some of those community members, where they talked about unity and uniting families, keeping the kids safe, keeping them off the street at night, which of course, you know, I mean, we're dealing with an area that is very unsafe, whether it's during the day or night, but it's especially bad at night. A lot of gang violence, and that's always been a big concern of Safe Passage is losing kids to the gangs. That's something that they've been, you know, working on for years. But some of the other things that the individuals mentioned, the most important part, as they said, is happiness, a good meeting point, expression, and expression through the arts, for example, love and opportunity, place of motivation, support and learning. You know, these are the things that they're looking at that they need and require in order to enhance their lives, to improve their lives, both physically, emotionally, and economically. And that's what this is all about. Now, as we have been saying, this is the 13th year that we have sold Vidalia onions. And I was looking at the records of sales over the last, well, actually over the last 7 years, just to get an idea of how we've done and, you know, what we can expect to do. And there have actually been years that, you know, we've done amazingly well. I mean, you know, we're looking, as I said, at needing $3,000 in order to come up with the funds for our portion of this, of the contribution towards the grant. Well, this year, the price of the onions has gone up. So in conferring with the board of directors, they suggested some prices to sell the onions, which are different from what they have been in the past. And so I used those figures in order to determine what we might be looking at. And an average year, actually over the last 7 years, is selling 250 cases. And if we were to sell the full case at $30 a case and the half case at 20, we're talking 25-pound cases, by the way. And if we did our normal amounts of sales, it would be 220 full cases and 60 half cases. And the end result of that would be, and also considering the nominal $150 added cost to rent the U-Haul and for Mike Kimosavi, Dennis and I to go to Augusta to pick them up. By the way, Dennis, you notice that now Farmers Union has U-Hauls. So
everybody wants in on the U-Haul.
Yeah, so we won't even have to go to down to Jay to pick up a U-Haul. We can pick it right up here in town.
Late at night when nobody's looking.
Exactly. And they said that does happen. they often do transactions, never even see the people they're renting to. So they don't need to see our ugly pusses. We can just float in and take off with it. But anyway.
Speak for yourself, Lone Ranger.
Yeah. So with the scenario that I just mentioned of selling 250 cases and 220 full and 60 half is how it would break down using, typical figures that I've seen over the last 7 years. We would actually net $3,150. So that's basically the minimum that we need to do. But in order to do that, we need club members to participate. And if we don't have club members participating, I don't expect there's much of a chance that we will get there. So that's what the thrust of this is about. It's not about lining our pockets at all. It's about helping people who are in much more dire situations than we are. And so I'm asking people to get out there and sell onions to your friends and family. I mean, I've had people that I sell cheese to who have said, well, what about the onions? So, because they've been looking for them because we didn't do it last year. And so here's our chance. I know that we've had individuals who've gone to restaurants, to mom and pop type stores, and have sold onions there and in good quantities as well. So that's the type of thing that we need to be looking at doing, is getting out there and going to these individuals, to these places, and asking them to buy onions. And of course, I do have a form which I will send out. I'll send out the full email later today. I had hoped to hear back from the Augusta Club if there was going to be any additional freight like we encountered a couple of years ago in 2018. We were hit with like $450 in extra freight costs that we had to pay in order to feel that we had done our part, because they didn't realize it was coming down the pike and they got hit with a tremendous freight charge. So we paid our fair share of it based upon the onions that we purchased that year. So that's what I'm seeking. I certainly would entertain questions if anyone has any about the onions or the project or the individuals we're dealing with, whatever. So
if I may just jump in with my big blabber mouth.
Sure.
But if you look at the numbers that we're looking at this point, 55 members, that's 4 full cases apiece. Everybody needs to do 4 cases. Now, some of you do a hell of a lot more than 4 cases. Some of you don't do anywhere near 4 cases. We'll let the half cases worry about themselves. But I guess what we're really asking you folks to do is step up to the plate, 4 bags. Find some sucker, some friend, buy them and give them away. I don't care. Somebody will take them. They're a damn good onion. But we may have trouble with restaurants and some of the venues that we've had in the past this year because things are a little wonky. But we're asking you for 4 boxes apiece, which is not an insurmountable task, with all due respect.
And, you heard Dennis say bags at one point, because for several years, these did come in bags, and it caused us to have a lot more damage to them because they were in bags. Then they obviously moved to boxes, which is much better, easier to handle, and much better for the onion. But of course, remember, food closets could use these just as well. If you want to buy them and give them to a food closet or an organization, whatever, they're a great onion, as you say. Sue Pratt had question.
So I'm curious about the timeline. Can you go over that? Like,
Yeah.
when do they do and all that? Doug?
Well, we've basically got the month of April to do the selling. And that was another thing that I was hoping I would hear back from the Augusta Club about. Because, you know, looking over the years, it's generally been that we receive the onions the week after Mother's Day. It always seems to be the way it works out. So on the form, what did I put? I put last day to order is the 30th and expected arrival the week of May 10th, because they have to have our count into the Augusta Club, you know, week or two before the onions actually arrive. They always come to Oaks and Parkhurst Glass there in Augusta, and we pick them up there. But I don't know yet also precisely where the pickup point is going to be here in Farmington. We'll figure that out. Any other questions?
Terry Winslow has a question.
Yes, Terry.
Yeah, so we had talked about like a price break for multiple cases. I don't remember if we actually came up with a price, but that's something to keep in mind if people are approaching, you know, stores or restaurants who want to buy more than one case or more than 5. You know, I don't know what the breakout will be.
Yeah.
That's been decided yet. But.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things where, you know, I'd rather not do it because obviously, I mean, this is a fundraiser and it's going to a fantastic cause. But if it does take that to make a 20 case sale to somebody or 10 case sale or whatever, if they need a price break, you know, we could look at giving them, you know, a few dollars off a case. And, you know, I like I say, I wouldn't want to do it, but if that's what it took to make the sale, then.
And it is a really, really good price. I know someone, I can't remember now who looked it up while we were meeting.
It was Holly.
Holly, and it was like $29 a case or something. So,
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, it's a really, or 39, whatever it was, $39 a case. So there, I mean, it's a really good price. So on top of that, my other question is if people want to go to stores or restaurants, should we track that? So like the same place isn't getting hit up multiple times?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
Because I'm thinking of a few, but they're a little more remote, you know, places where I doubt people, you know, in Farmington would go, but still they might. So it might be a good one.
Right. Yeah. If, you know, if people are going to do that, to go to stores, for example, if they would let me know, and then if other people are saying, you know, somebody else comes along and they say they want to go to thus and so, if they would in turn, you know, ask me about it or let me know, I can tell them, well, that's already covered, or all right, well, I mean, I can just send out a notice, send out an email to everyone to let them know if individuals are going to certain locations, so that it doesn't get, they don't get doubly hit, whatever. Yeah. Yes.
Would it also be helpful for, in that letter that you send out, a list of the stores that and restaurants who had purchased in the past?
Well, the only ones that come right to mind right off was the Homestead Bakery and what used to be Trenton's, but of course is now Food City. But I understand, of course, Food City is an employee-owned organization, so you know, could still contact them as well. But those are the only two that come right to mind right off, because that's where Tom Sawyer used to get a bulk of his sales. And of course, Franklin Savings Bank has always done a tremendous job of selling onions. And I was hoping that Derek Hayes would be on, because I know after the last time I spoke, he was interested in the projects taking place in Guatemala, but Tim can fill him in on everything and get him going on selling onions. Any other questions?
Well, Doug, thank you very much for this presentation. And certainly, you know, for the $3,000 that the Farmington Club is going to raise through the sale of onions is going to result in a $30,000 project for the people of Guatemala, which is pretty amazing. It's a 10-to-1 multiplier for the donations that we're going to come up with. So a great cause. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Charlie.